First of all, it's important to have a framework, right, and a language and a set of tools to help people understand the different elements of transition. So creating the transition roadmap was really an effort to try and do that, to parse it into chunks that people could understand and apply that collectively would have the right impact in speeding up the transitions. The first, component is really accelerate your learning. I see learning as really foundational in the end. You've got a lot to learn. You've got to learn about the technical dimensions of your job, the cultural dimensions, the political dimensions. You can't just learn by immersing yourself and hoping that it's all going to, sort of seep through your pores and you'll figure it out. You've got to be systematic. There's so much going on. There's so much you need to do. You need to create a learning plan. You need to think about how you can speed up that learning process. So accelerate your learning is the first big element. Match your strategy to the situation. It became very obvious to me early on that the way you transition into a new role really depends a lot on the type of situation you've inherited or the mix. It's a very different thing to come into a turnaround environment where you need to act quickly, right? It's very action-oriented, it's immediate analysis and on with the show, as opposed to more of a realignment or sustaining success kind of environment where you need to immerse yourself more deeply, understand what's really going on, build alliances and coalitions to support, the change efforts that you need to be pursuing. And then the third element is really around gaining alignment. If learning is the alpha of transitions, then connection and alignment is the omega, right? You've got lots of directions around which you need to get alignment, right? With your boss, obviously, but also often with your peers, other key stakeholders. You've got to drive alignment with your team. So how do you make sure that everything lines up so that success is well defined, so that you know what it looks like, you know how you're going to achieve it? That's the third big element. I sort of think about those elements, the accelerate your learning, match strategy, situation, gain alignment, as in part at least diagnostic about figuring out the lay of the land and what you need to do. As you begin to do that, you can begin to establish direction. And establishing direction is about what you're going to do, but also critically what's your team and your organization going to do, right? And that's the what, it's the goals, right? It's the how, which is the strategy. But critically, it's also the why, right? Why should people get excited about going down this road with you? And then there's the elements of the transition roadmap that are more about implementation and acceleration and beginning to gain momentum. There's build your team, right? Typically, you're not going to get to build your team from scratch. You're going to inherit somebody else's team, your predecessors. There may even be members of the team that were your predecessors' people. You inherit those people, you've got to assess them, figure out whether they're the right people in the right roles. You've got to think about how to reshape that team. You've got to think about how to align that team powerfully in terms of direction and set of purpose, right? And you've got to figure out how to accelerate it down the road of, taking actions that are going to begin to create momentum. Then there's securing early wins. I'm a big believer in the power of early wins to begin to create perception, and perception is important, that good things are happening, right? So some early effort to identify what are those opportunities where you can begin to get some progress with modest investment of resource, but it's visible, it's tangible, people notice and they go, oh, good things are starting to happen here. We're making progress. And that sort of energy becomes almost, infectious, right? It begins to really mobilize people and they begin to want to get on board with where things are going. And then finally, in the midst of all this, you have to understand how to manage yourself. These are highly pressurized times. They can be times of great excitement. They can be times of great anxiety. Typically, they're both, only on different days, right? You're going to have days when things are going great, and you're going to be days when you're going to be banging your head against the wall going, why did I take this job? So understanding how to manage yourself through that process, stay in equilibrium, build the right set of advisors and counselors, relationships that can help sustain you, maintain your energy level through the whole thing. That's part of the kind of the care and feeding of you as a leader in transition.